Regulator, or Nersa, has approved Joburg City Power's 7% increase from the 15.4% increase first requested by City Power. To find out how the new electricity tariffs will impact customers, we're joined in the studio by Sitelo Kulu, who is City Power's Managing Director. Sitelo, good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Leanne, and to the viewers at home.
I mean, we've basically got residents who already feel that they're paying far too much for electricity. What brought on the decision to further increase these electricity tariffs now by 7%?
Thanks, Leanne, for the opportunity. I think first, let me just address the issue of the 15.4% increase. Okay. Initially, we had applied for 7% to Nersa, not the 15.4 as reported. So I think that's the first point. Really, with this application, we wanted to address about 5 issues that we have been talking about within the business. I think the first one, which is obvious, is to pass through the bulk purchases cost from Eskom. So Eskom got about 8% increase, and that had an impact of about 7.3% to the municipalities. So we then had to pass through the cost, obviously, to the customers, as you know, which contributes about 70% of the total cost of the organization. So that's the first issue. The second one, we wanted to make sure that we address the issue of cross-subsidization. We've been talking about this, that we want to make sure that business come to Johannesburg to actually do business within Johannesburg. So as a result, we actually put forward an application for about 3.5% for business, because we wanted to make sure that we address the issue of cross-subsidization. So that's the second area. But the third one was also to look at making sure that we do away with the IPT that is reviewed every 6 months. We wanted to review it every month so that customers get a benefit of a lower tariff every month as they buy electricity. So that was the third issue. But the fourth one was then to address the structural changes or issues that we had on the time of use tariff. And that's where the 15.4% comes from, where we were saying that let's look at the fixed versus a variable cost and then apply for a 15.4% tariff increase.
Yeah. All right. Now, I suppose the question that needs to be asked is, were customers informed that the tariffs will be reviewed before the increase was made final?
Yes, in March, we actually went through an extensive outreach program as part of the Integrated Development Plan, the IDP as we call it within the city, where we're basically soliciting input from the citizens of Johannesburg. We basically told them that we'll be going for the application of about 7% to Nersa, and these are how the customers were segmented, and therefore explained also the nitty-gritties behind the tariff application. So we allowed them to then obviously give input into that, and then finally in April, late April, we then made a 7% application to Nersa, which was within the municipal guidelines as issued by the regulator.
All right, and it's been approved. So now let's talk about the various customer categories and how it's going to impact all of us.
If you look at what we had applied for, especially with business, we had actually applied for 3.5%, but Nersa came back to us and said we need to raise that to 7%. So obviously we'll continue to engage with Nersa to make sure that we soften the burden from the business point of view around the cross-subsidization. But secondly, we'd also applied for prepaid customers because we're promoting customers to move towards prepaid. We'd applied for 0.39%, and I'm glad to say that Nersa approved the 0.39%. So really the tariff for the prepaid customers domestic is very marginal. I mean 0.39% versus the 7%, which is actually good for customers to migrate to that particular area.
Yeah. Okay. There's something I just need a little bit of clarification on. I don't necessarily understand it. In line with the 2013-2014 tariffs, it says the demand-side management levy has been reduced from 2 cents per kilowatt hour to 1 cent per kilowatt hour to alleviate the burden on customers. What exactly does this mean?
What has been happening over the years, I think the past 3 years, we've been charging customers 2 cents for every kilowatt hour that they use. So if you're a domestic customer and you're consuming above 500, so from 501, we'll then charge you about 2 cents per kilowatt hour for every kilowatt hour that you use. It's part of the demand side management, meaning that we're sending a price signal for you to be able to reduce the power that you use. And obviously the money collected from there will then be used to roll out infrastructure projects like the solar water geysers that you see, for instance, street light energy efficiency, for instance, and also also refurbishment of some of the gas turbines to make sure that we deal with the issue of load shedding, for instance. So that's what has been happening. So then the council or the City of Johannesburg then took a decision that to be able to soften the burden from the customer perspective, let them then reduce the DSM levy by 50%, meaning that instead of getting the customers to pay 2 cents, they will pay 1 cent per kilowatt hour. So I think that's again a commitment from the City of Johannesburg to make sure that we soften the blow from the customer's pocket and actually then pay less when it comes to electricity tariff. So that's basically what it means, Leanne.
Yeah. All right. Now, when is the customer going to see this increase on their bills?
So this will be retrospective from the 1st of July.
Okay.
I mean, our financial year starts from the 1st of July.
Yeah.
So we'll then apply the tariff increase from the 1st of July. Already, I mean, customers have seen the impact because this has been implemented from the 1st of July and the average increase of 7%. So customers will be seeing that
so
impact.
already as we receive our bills, we're going to see that increase now.
We're going to see the impact, yes.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned earlier that prepaid is the way to go. I mean, I suppose it's difficult for everybody to go that route. How many prepaid customers do you have? I mean, when you look at the ratio.
I mean, currently we've got about 450,000 or so customers, our customer base, if you look at, you know, throughout the City of Johannesburg. And then out of that, we've got about 240,000 customers that are on prepaid. So it means it's really close to about 50% of our customers that are currently on prepaid. Yeah. And obviously, we currently going through a betterment projects where we are upgrading our metering infrastructure, and we're making sure that we upgrade from the old, dial type of meters to more digital, meters. And we're going through that particular program. And again, this gives now a customer power to be able to say, I want to be on prepaid. So on the same meter, we can be able to then operate as a prepaid or operate as a postpaid. And I'm giving that customer that flexibility. So it's quite a number.
Sicelo, thank you very much for talking to us here on Morning Live. Sicelo Zulu is City Power's Managing Director, talking to us about the Nersa approving Johannesburg City Power's 7% increase that has already come into effect. So Joburg residents, when you get your account, don't be shocked when you see that increase already.